Welcome again to another edition of DX Engineering Videos from DX Engineering headquarters here in Tallmadge, Ohio. Today we're very pleased to have Will Jourdain, AA4WJ, join us from Georgia. Where in Georgia are you from, Will?
Atlanta, Georgia is where I hail from. Northeast Atlanta, a little suburb called Norcross.
Norcross, Georgia. And how the heck did you get involved in this hobby?
Well, I'm afraid my father's got a lot of the blame to bear for that one. He's AB4BJ. His name is Bill, and he's been a ham for longer than I've been around. So I grew up in it, and it was all downhill from there. You know, I grew up watching him play radio. Thought it was cool. Hey, Dad, where are those voices coming from? One of those, you know. So it was. It only made sense.
So how young were you? I mean, when you think about your memories of growing up. What's your first memory about amateur radio and your father?
You know, I actually have a pretty vivid memory of walking into his room one day, and he was talking to an Englishman of some form. I don't know exactly where he was from. I don't remember his call sign to save my life, but I remember Dad talking to him, and I remember hearing his accent and thinking, I was a young kid at this point. I was probably seven, maybe 8, and I just remember thinking, man. That's really, you know, I'd never met an Englishman in person. I'd never met anyone from outside the United States in person before. And so, you know, it just kind of blew my formative mind at that point. And I was like, you know, wow. I had seen his antenna, of course, in the backyard. He had a DXCC, I think it was, a wire antenna of some form that we had put up back there. And he was talking all over the world on it, and I was just like, that's the coolest thing.
On a piece of wire.
Yeah, exactly. On a piece of wire in the backyard. I don't think he was running an amp, just 100 watts. Mm-hmm. And there you have it. He was talking to, you know, across the pond, as it were.
And so did he entice you to become a ham, or did you want to become a ham?
A little bit of both. I got to admit, a little bit of both. I got my license when I was 15, almost 16, 15 or 16, somewhere around there. And he had a lot to do with it. He was going out for his extra at the time, and so I decided that I'd study up and take the test with him, the tech test. He passed, I passed, and there you have it. But you know, I'd always been interested in electronics in general, just technology. Mm-hmm. And this is a technological hobby. You know, there's a lot to learn and a lot to play with, a lot of fun to be had.
There is, but I mean, you know, being that you're younger, a little younger than me, and so, I mean, what about video games? And I mean, how does amateur radio stack up to all the other things that are going on, you know, for a millennial?
There is a lot more intellectual payoff with ham radio, I think. It's much more of a thinking man's hobby. At least in some regards. It's a hobby, I think, that is accessible to everybody. It certainly can be. But there are just so many avenues to explore. There's so many places that it can be taken with computer interfacing and digital modes. Of course, ICOM's D-Star technology, talking all over the world on a 5-watt HT from the back porch, using an internet backbone, and things like that. You know, it's pioneering technology, and I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun.
So, you know, you get your license at 15. Did you get on the air right away, or? A
little bit. I was a tech for a good long time, and so, you know, around town, talking to the guys in the local club, on, you know, the local repeaters and things like that. There was a D-Star machine, fortunately enough, in our backyard at the time, so I had a lot of fun playing with that. And then, I got introduced to the more global community of ham radio at that point through D-Star, and then that all sort of, led to where I am now. After I got out of school, I knew that, I needed a job, and there you have it. I had, just kept my ear to the ground, and there you have it. One thing led to another.
Now, you operated Field Day last June in New York.
Correct.
Right. So tell us about that.
That was a lot of fun. I was up there with the Great South Bay Club, the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club. Great group of guys. They had a marvelous setup. We had a lot of ICOM radios up there. We had a 7851, a 7800, and a 7700. Those were our CW ops. And then we had, I believe, 6, if memory serves, 7600s that were our phone stations.
Now, did you help set up the antennas, and were you up at 2 o'clock in the morning? Did you have rain and bugs?
We did have a lot of rain on, I guess it was Saturday evening. It came a downpour, but that's all part of the fun, you know. I was there when they set up, and I did lend a hand wherever I could. But these guys have been doing this for a number of years, and they were, you know, somewhat of a well-oiled machine. And so at times I felt like I was getting more in their way than I was offering assistance. But I did try to help as much as I could. But we had a good time. They had a guy out there barbecuing, you know, keeping everybody fed and happy. And it was a great time. We made some good contacts. We had their emergency service trailer was there. That's where we set up our CW stations, and then we had some other tents set up around their the little field that they had set aside for the event.
Now, did you make some contacts? Did you get on the air?
I did. I exclusively phone op on some of the 7600s. But I did. I had a chance to sit down for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, and just work the mic.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a really great time. They put on a great event. It was a marvelous setup that they had done, and we were pleased to be a part of it.
Oh, that's great. What do you think about the future of amateur radio from your eyes, from what you see? And I mean, you were just recently at the Orlando show, and you've been to Dayton, and you're meeting all these people across the country. I mean, what do you think amateur radio looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
Well, software-defined radios, I think, are going to be an undeniable factor. We were pleased recently to introduce our newest HF radio, the 7300, of course, which is an SDR internally. And so I think there's a lot of movement in that direction.
But what about the activities and the people involved?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. I do wish that there was a little more youth involvement, you know, folks my age and even younger. We don't see enough of that, I don't think, and I know that there's a lot of effort being put towards getting, you know, those younger folks into the hobby. But there, as far as things to do, as far as keeping yourself entertained as a ham, there's no shortage of stuff to do. Of course, we had the big contest this past weekend. National Parks on the Air this year from the ARRL is the most amazing event. I think they're doing a great job with it, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So it'll be great to see that play out for the rest of the year. You know, you can't throw a dart at a calendar without coming across some other various contests throughout the year. So it's easy to keep yourself entertained.
It is. It is. There's a lot to do in the hobby. Well, Will, we really appreciate you stopping in today, and it's been a lot of fun, and we wish you good luck, and hope to work you on the air, and want to thank everybody for watching another edition of our DX Engineering video series.